So when we talk about products and services, this really has to do with your product development. And as I've mentioned to you in previous classes, artist development doesn't make any money. It's all about getting it set up to make money. And then once you are finished with your artist development plan, you'll move into product development. And product development is where the money is made. So this is what we're going to be talking about here when we get into this. So just remember, plan your work and then work your plan. So this is on products and services. And there's quite a few things here within this that an artist might think about as they're developing their art. So all the way from product development to product strategy, product mix, live performances, producing, recording audio, mixing and editing, mastering, recording video, manufacturing, packaging, pressing, merchandising. There's a couple other ones that we'll cover today, including licensing, affiliates, and databases. And then the last part of this, and that's why I have it as 5.99, because it's the very last part, is future products and services that the artist might consider as their career develops. In this section of the artist business plan, artists should identify what products or services they provide. It may be a great live show. It may be exceptional songs. It may well be produced recordings. Artists in the music industry usually have multiple income streams and usually cannot rely on just one. There are many possibilities, including live performances, teaching, salaried position, session player, merchandising, sound recordings, publishing, the list goes on and on. So when we talk about product development, we'll be talking about generating your ideas, screening them, which means figuring out which ones will work for you and which ones don't, determining which ones they are, and then doing some research on them to make sure that they are what you need to do and you're not overloading your plate of goodies, designing a plan, testing it, and then launching the product. So you can take all these ideas and put them into a recording session or planning new merchandise or what you're going to do with your catalog of songs or recordings, as well as live performances and those kind of things. So this is really where we're going when we talk about your products and services. And as you can see here at number 5, products and services is going to be an important part of what an artist can represent or can offer to their fans and customers. Part of the business plan of the artist involves the way the means of developing new products. Many artists have a variety of potential products, such as songs, personal appearances, performances, recordings, merchandise, licensing of catalog. There's multiple ways that an artist can look at their products and their services. This section of the artist's business plan identifies the products that are being planned by the artist. Once these planned products are released to the public or published, they are no longer in development and move to the category of products. So what are the artist's planned projects? Perhaps the artist would like to write a song maybe every week or release a new recording of a song maybe every 2 weeks. I don't know. It depends on the artist and their plan. Does the artist have plans to release an album or a t-shirt, or do they have plans to go on tour? The planning of the products depends on the overall goals of the artist. And I want to remind you here is that when you think of a new product that the artist is going to be developing and then releasing, that product has a plan of its own, and that plan is very similar to your business plan. For example, what's the plan for the sales of that product? What's the plan for the financing of that product? Are there any direct competitors to that product? What's the plan for promotion or advertising? These are very similar to what goes on in the artist business plan, but this is called a product plan. We won't get into too many details in this class about product plans. That's really reserved for other classes, but the overall is what we're going to be discussing here. Product development focuses on all the business arrangements after the artist development details have been completed. Product development is all about recording, marketing, and selling products, especially involved with selling CDs, tapes, vinyl recordings, MP3 players, MP3 downloads, live performances, etc. And once the artist development section has been completed, product development is then implemented. This includes the recording and performing of the songs or the persona of the artist. So one of the products that the artist is going to be releasing to their fans, customers, and to the industry are the songs. Another product that an artist could use is their singing, is their vocals. So many times when we talk about a singer-songwriter, that's someone who writes the songs and sings the songs. And many artists in the industry are considered singer-songwriters. Another product would be that of recordings. So the product really is the production of recordings. And the artist can release recordings as often as they can get into the studio or complete a mix of the recordings. Now, there are two different types of recordings. There's demo recordings and there's master recordings. Demo recordings are used for the industry. So you may use a demo recording to entice a record label to come and listen to you, to check out the artist, to see if they're interested in working with the artist. Demos are also used for publishing companies. They don't need a master recording to hear the quality of the song. Just a nice demo is all they would need. Master recordings, on the other hand, are recordings that are issued to the public, mainly for our sake here, for downloads or streams. And then if you want hard copy, those recordings would be replicated on CDs or vinyl or that kind of thing. Another part of the products and services of an artist is musicianship. Now, maybe this musicianship is in a band. Maybe they hire themselves out as a session player. Maybe they're a side person in a group. Maybe they're hiring their musicianship out for a gig where they're being paid to perform. So that's certainly one of the products or services that an artist has that can offer to the public. And not only to the public customer, but also to the music industry customer. Another product that the artist can offer once they learn it is the mixing and editing. So sometimes the mixing and editing will come about because the artist is recording their own product. But many times the artist might be hired by someone else to do some mixing or editing. So that is another service that can be offered as an income source. So something to consider. Now, in conjunction with that, mastering is also one of those services that can be learned and can become one of the services offered by the artist. Many artists do more than just write songs and perform and record. They offer their services for other things, other income sources. So these are things that the artist should consider when they're looking at their products and services. Well, what about their discography or their content management? Yeah, this is an important part too. So this is part of their products. As they record new songs or new recordings, that goes into their discography. And then for them to manage that content, to find out where it's going to be used the best. That discography may include vocals and a band, but then again, that discography could be the same recording, but take the vocals out. And now it's an instrumental. And that could be added as a different recording to the content of the artist added to their discography. So there's lots of ways that this can be done. Also within that discography, I would recommend that perhaps that the artist might want to consider that if they're coming up with a demo, they may want to add a different gender of a singer. So perhaps the original recording has a female singer as the lead, and what they can do is go into the studio and cut the same demo, but with a male vocalist. And that way, when they're shopping it means trying to get some groundwork happening for it. They can then use those demos depending on what is being needed by that music industry customer. My recommendation is to try and come up with multiple products with the same recording. And that's why I mentioned that you can add a female vocalist or a male vocalist or an instrumental. But you do have to manage that content once you have it, because otherwise, what are you going to do with it? You've got to have it available so that you have it in maybe an MP3 form or a WAV form or AIFF form. It depends. Another product that the artist may consider is their film and video. We're going to be talking about this in more detail in just a moment, but film and video is another product or service that the artist is going to be putting into their plan. And packaging, yes, how is it going to look? What's it going to look like once we get into having the product ready for the market? So packaging becomes a big part of this. And manufacturing, we'll talk more about this in a minute as well. So manufacturing of vinyl, of CDs, of t-shirts, of koozies or hoodies or whatever it is that the artist is going to be selling with their artwork on it or their likeness, depending on what it is that they're putting out as a product. And then we have to look at the distribution. How is this going to be distributed? Either through brick and mortar, hard copies, or online as a digital distribution. So it really will depend on what the artist's plan is for distribution of their products and services. Obviously, one of the things that musicians and artists look for is gigs, and live performances is another product and or service, depending on how you look at it, that the artist should put into their products and services part of their plan. So how often are they going to perform? Put it in the plan. What's the goal? Put it in the plan. If you've never performed out, ideally, what would you like to do? Once a week? Twice a week? 5 times a week? Okay, doesn't matter. Put it in the plan, whatever the plan is. And then merchandise is another product or service. We'll talk more about this as well. Merchandise meaning products that you offer for sale to the fan customers. And this can be done at a merch table, at a gig, or it can be done through various brick and mortar outlets such as record stores or clothing stores, for example. There's other ways that merchandise can be done. So then it gets down to working the product. The importance of knowing the various parts of product development will be reflected in the success of a release of a sound recording for public sales. It may seem obvious, but all of the items that make up product development should be considered in a broad sense. For example, artists should consider distribution when planning the recording of the songs. There's no sense in having product gather dust in the garage while the artist scurries to find a way to get it into the marketplace. So do some planning. So let's talk about product strategy first. No matter what marketing strategy that an artist chooses for their company, from the simple distribution of promotional items to a nationwide tri-media campaign, there are tools that can help their business reach their goals. Keep in mind that because this is the business of art, there is no true road to success without quality of content or quality of performance. As you know, one of the things I stress each class is your desire for quality. The target market of the artist's business is listed in their business plan. We'll talk about the marketing of this at a later date. The artist's business should do an extensive research on their target market. In other words, what do you think the fans are going to want to buy? If it's a certain kind of shirt or a certain type of sound or a certain type of hat that you're offering, this is something that ought to be researched. Doing a thorough market research is something that should be present not just in the promotional item strategy, but in all marketing strategy. This step is the very foundation of a product strategy campaign. And failing to do this effectively will always lead to disastrous results. The strategy continues by engaging the customer. This may be accomplished best through the artist's live performances. Artists should evaluate and pick the best event where they can meet their target market. It's interesting that when I go to a rock show, the artists are in the dressing room talking about how great they are. When I go to a country show, the artist is out at the merch table greeting fans. After thorough market research, the artist should already have enough information to develop a segment target market based on their geographic, demographic, and psychographic classifications. From this target segment, the artist should then find and utilize the best event that their segment is most likely to attend. In other words, find choice gigs. You don't want to just take any gig when you're developing. You want to find choice gigs in order to maximize your exposure to new customers and new fans. Artists need to choose and design the perfect promotional items that fit their market, their event, and their brand. Again, based on the segment they are targeting, they should then choose the appropriate promotional product that their target market will appreciate. Design also plays a big factor in the success of the artist's marketing campaign. Examples of design issues to focus on the clearness of a logo to t-shirt colors and the clarity of a message on printed items. Artists also need to plan a distribution program for their promotional items during their live events. This may include the following questions. How can an artist's target market find or get attracted to the sales area, in other words, the merch booth, during their events? One good answer would be for the artist to exclaim to the audience, hey, don't forget about our merch table out in the lobby. Go check it out and purchase yourself a shirt. It's always a call to action in there. How can the artist effectively distribute their promotional items to give away? I've seen artists give away guitar picks, bumper stickers, these kind of things. How can the artist deliver their message? In other words, their sales pitch, or gather information from their target market, their contact details, during the distribution process? I can tell you an interesting story. This is something that I recommend to my clients, is that when they have a gig, I recommend that they do a raffle at the gig. The raffle is completed at the front door where the tickets are, and when fans come in, they offer the fan a raffle ticket. It's free. In order to get a raffle ticket, the fan has to write down their name, their email address, or their text number. In return, the artist on stage then says, "Hey, does everyone have their raffle ticket?" And they hold up a ticket. If you don't have one yet, go get one at the front door. So they're building the audience. They're going to be capturing their ways of communicating with these audiences, and then they give away a CD. Costs them $1.25. But this is the best way to start accumulating new fans, is to get their email address or a way to contact them with a text number or a phone number, or both. After the artist has started gathering information about their potential customers, they will need to create a system to organize it all. In other words, a good workable database. This step is often overlooked since most believe that the success of the promotional item campaign is only measured by the success of the event itself. No, the event itself could be a flop, but you could attract new customers, new fans. You could gather their contact information at the same time, even though you had a couple sour notes during the performance. But in truth, this step will separate the weak from the strong marketing strategy. A solid system in organizing an artist's gathered information will often determine their return on investment for their efforts. So if the artist is going to go play that same venue again, don't you think it would make a lot of sense that they would contact the fans that were there the first time? And how do they contact them? They use the information from the gathered raffle ticket. You can email them, you can text them, you can call them, you can invite them to the show. Any questions on product strategy? Okay, so let's move into product mix. What does that mean? The product mix. Yes, this is the mix of all the different products that the artist is releasing to the public. Every artist has a variety of potential products and services that they may offer potential customers. Remember, artists typically have two types of customers: fan customers and music industry professional customers. The product mix is the array of products or services for sale. Sometimes artists offer different variations of the same product, such as a live performance or a song or an audio recording of the same song. In addition, artists may sell various products such as compact discs, music downloads, t-shirts, or services such as live performances or songwriting for movies. Artist business owners use the concept of product mix for a variety of reasons, including expanding sales opportunities, targeting different customers, and reducing their dependency on only one product or service. If the artist sells only one product or offers only one service, take a look at their options for expanding what they offer and strengthening their business. One good example is an artist who may perform all original material for some gigs and then, using a different name, perform cover songs for other gigs. I hired a band one time for a performance, and they told me after I hired them that they traveled with their own opening act. And the opening act was called The Other Half. Little did I know that the opening act was the same band. And they performed cover songs. The band that I hired played all original songs with a different name. So they ended up making $250 extra for the opening act, which was themselves. I thought it was a great idea, but I wasn't so happy that they weren't honest with me up front. So there are variations to the product mix. One way to expand an artist's product mix is to vary what is sold. I just mentioned this in the last segment, where an artist could have a recording with a male vocalist, have the same recording but with a female vocalist, and then have the same recording as an instrumental. If an artist can perform live, then perhaps they are selling fun to a talent buyer. The talent buyer may be interested in hiring an artist who can create a fun atmosphere for his or her customers. Remember, we're in the entertainment business. Yes, we focus on music, but we're in the entertainment business. We have to think about it from that perspective. However, perhaps the artist also performs serious music. There are talent buyers who regularly hire these types of performances. For the fan customer, an artist may sell a recording of an acoustic version of a song as well as an electric version. Another example of varying a product is offering recordings of songs as singles or as part of an album to satisfy fans and customers with different needs. And then you can expand the product mix. An artist might add non-vocal versions of their recordings. This expanding of the product mix might serve a whole new market for the artist of film producers needing songs or recordings that may be used as instrumentals or song beds. Both of these methods of expanding the product mix require a more significant investment than simply varying what the artist is already selling, but the risk might be worth it. We can diversify that product mix as well. Horizontal product mix expansion would be an artist who sells folk or acoustic music and then expands to offer blues and hip hop music, thus entering two new marketplaces. Expanding an artist's repertoire of songs will require the artist to add more rehearsal time. So when we talk about the product mix, it's all the particular products or services that the artist will offer. Are there any questions on the product mix? Okay, let's talk about live performances then. Live performances can both be a product and a service. The product could be the act or the show, and the service could be the musicianship offered to talent buyers. Let's talk about producing. A record producer is an individual working within the music industry whose job it is to oversee and manage the recording, such as the production of the artist's music. Many times an artist produces their own recordings. The producer hat, which may or may not be worn by the artist, may have many roles which include, but are not limited to, gathering ideas for the project, selecting songs and or musicians, coaching the musicians in the studio, controlling the recording sessions, and supervising the entire process all the way through mixing and mastering. And there are two types of producers in the music industry. There's the executive producer and the music producer. They both have different roles. An executive producer oversees a project's finances. That's kind of it. A music producer, on the other hand, oversees the creation of the recording. This is what you're probably more familiar with, is the music producer. In the movie industry, there are also executive producers as well as movie producers. In most cases, the music producer is also a competent arranger, composer, musician, or songwriter who can bring fresh ideas to a project. As well as making any songwriting and arrangement adjustments, the producer often selects and or gives suggestions to the mixing engineer. Simply put, a producer is the person or persons who achieve an artist's musical vision during the recording process. A producer might write songs, arrange songs, engineer, and play instruments on the tracks. Or a producer might simply sit between the speakers saying, again, 100 times until the desired result occurs. If an artist has significant studio experience, either as a player or an engineer, self-production is certainly an option. Many artists are capable of producing their own recordings. Often, though, most artists don't possess the ability to distance themselves from the highly personal attributes of their songs and often fall into bad production choices as a result. In other words, they can't see the forest through the trees. They're too close to the song. A producer should be involved at the earliest stages of planning a recording. Not the earliest stages of recording, but of planning itself. The biggest aspect of production is pre-production, and this is most effective when pursued outside the studio. Once all the tracks are recorded, the production is pretty much complete. I have to stress, pre-production, pre-production, pre-production. Musicians should know the song inside out, upside down, and backwards before they get into the studio. So they don't have to waste time in the studio learning their part. One last tip. Democracy in the studio is the absolute worst method of production. Only one person should be in charge, the producer. For this part of your artist business plan, consider the content as shown in the artist development plan. Consider the future products and services of the artist as determined in section 5.99 of the artist business plan. Write a plan for producing that content as audio demos or masters, and then put this into section 0.06 of the artist business plan. Other questions on producing? One thing I've noticed about the RAT program is they teach students how to become audio engineers, but they don't really teach them how to be a producer. And the producing is a valuable point, but as you're working on your capstone project and learning to become an audio engineer, you will get your experience as a producer. If let's say it's a 4-piece group and they're into the studio, every one of them always says, well, can you boost my part a little bit higher? And they won't say the word my part. They'll say, can you boost the drums just a little bit? Or can you boost the vocals just a little bit? Or what about that bass line? Can we boost it just a little bit more? That's democracy in the studio. It does not work. One person should be involved. Usually, if that producer is one of the stars of the group or one of the main members, you got to be careful of that too. A producer should have outside ears, in my opinion. Someone who doesn't go with the flow of the artist's desires on volume. Okay, let's talk about recording audio for a moment. Likely, artists are in the business of releasing recorded audio. This may or may not be in cooperation with a record label. The service part of recording audio includes the performance and recording, and the product is the actual recording. But what you need to do is consider who owns the master. That means the master recording of these. Who owns the tracks? Typically, an artist who records and releases their own product is running a separate business, that of a vanity record label, an artist's own record company. So if the artist is planning to record and release their own recordings, they should seriously consider the business aspect of what is actually happening. Either way, is the artist ready to record? How will the project start? How long will it take? How much will it cost? Set a goal for completing a recording. Without a goal, a recording project could lag on for years. Set a target date to have the recordings completed. Artists can use that not just for planning and scheduling, but as a motivator to keep focused. Determine cost and time budgets. Artists will need to determine upfront what the budget for the entire project will be, from recording through manufacturing. This will require that the artist do a lot of research, then balance the results against what can be afforded and how much time will be spent on the project. And then putting it all together. Once an artist has a budget and schedule planned out, they can get started. Track the progress to make sure the schedule and budget are being followed. Remember that delays will happen. Don't panic. Just be diligent about tracking the project's progress and make adjustments as necessary. Don't make the mistake of scheduling and promoting a music release party. Ideally, artists should never schedule the release of the music until they have completed their recordings. Many times I've seen an artist put together a CD release party, but they don't have the CDs in their hand. And they have it scheduled, and they have it promoted. No CDs to offer the fans at the gig for their CD release party. Don't do that. If you're in the studio, you're the only one that knows you're in the studio. The fans don't know this. If you've completed your recording, the fans still don't know it, but you do. So then you can plan the marketing of how this is all going to be done once the recording is done. Most major labels don't put out a product for about 6 to 9 months after the recording has been completed, because they're doing all of their groundwork for promoting that recorded product. Any questions on recording audio? As I mentioned to you before, this is just an overview. I mean, we could get into the nitty-gritty of where to put a microphone, etc., but you learn that in other classes. All right, well, let's talk about the mixing and editing, section 5.08. The mixing and editing of a track recording. Audio mixing is usually completed by a mixing engineer who is an audio specialist that possesses multiple sounds by combining them into one or more channels. In the process, sound levels are manipulated and sound effects such as reverb may be added. With the introduction of multi-track recording, the production phase of modern recording has radically changed into one that generally involves 3 stages. The recording, which we just talked about, the mixing, which is this part, and the mastering, which is the next part. Audio mixing is done in studios as a part of creating an album or single. The mixing stage often follows a multi-track recording. The process is generally carried out by a mixing engineer who mixes the recorded projects. And then there's audio for film and television. Audio mixing for film and television is a process during which the post-production stage of a moving image by which the multitude of recorded sounds are combined into one or more channels. And then there's mixing for live sound. Live sound mixing is the process of electrically blending together multiple sound sources at a live event using a mixing console. The live sound engineer balances the various audio sources in a way that best suits the needs of the event. Basically, there are 3 functions of audio mixing. Mixing means summing signals together, which is normally done by a dedicated summing amplifier, or in the case of digital, by a simple algorithm. Number 2, routing allows the routing of source signals to internal buses or external processing units and effects. And then 3, processing. Many mixers also offer onboard processors like equalizers and compressors. In the artist's business plan, explain how the artist is planning on completing the mixing and editing of upcoming recording projects. Any questions on mixing and editing? All right, let's talk about mastering then for a moment. The final stage in the recording process is that of mastering. After mixing, a mastering engineer prepares the final product for replication or reproduction on a compact disc for radio or otherwise. Mastering is the process of preparing and transferring recorded audio from a source such as audio tracks containing the final mix to a data storage device. In other words, the master. The master becomes the source from which all copies will be produced from methods such as pressing, duplication, or replication. More tasks such as editing, pre-gapping, leveling, fading in and out, noise reduction, and other signals restoration and enhancement processes can be applied as part of the mastering stage. And during mastering, the source material is also put in proper order. This is done for albums in particular. This is commonly referred to as assembly or track sequencing. To finish mastering a recording with multiple songs, track markers must be inserted along with International Standard Recording Code, that's the ISRC, and other information necessary to replicate a compact disc. This is referred to as metadata. Listeners will notice when the recording is played back on digital machines. I don't know if you've ever put a CD into your player and it comes up track 1 and it doesn't name the artist. Track 2 doesn't name the artist. When you're doing mastering the proper way and then you have CDs replicated, it'll say the name of the song, the name of the artist, et cetera, et cetera. So when you don't have that, that means mastering probably has not been completed. Any questions on mastering? All right, well, let's talk about recording video. Many artists are actively involved with video, including performing, as well as providing musicianship, as well as providing the recorded sound for video. Part of the artist development plan is a section about video as a product and not just a great promotion tool. Let's face it, video has made a star out of thousands of people. Selfies are the new norm. With the explosion of services like YouTube, Hulu, and Netflix, and the cost of video production at an all-time low, the time has never been better for artists to get into the mix. Artists who don't realize and utilize video are at a great disadvantage when competing and branding and ultimately sales. So don't forget about storyboarding. Storyboarding is planning the camera shots ahead of time. Artists should break up the video into individual shots. What's shot 1? What's shot 2? What's shot 3? I remember a story about Michael Jackson preparing to play the halftime show at the Super Bowl. And he rehearsed and he rehearsed and he rehearsed. He knew which camera to look into at what time. He knew when to spin to look into the camera at another time. Every shot was figured out ahead of time. And then he practiced looking at those particular cameras when it was time for him to do his halftime show. So this reflected in the quality of the halftime show because Michael Jackson had already rehearsed all of these moves ahead of time. Location, location, location. Where is the artist going to shoot the video? Is it lit well with natural light? If there are a lot of windows that allow natural light in, it means that additional lighting might not be needed. This is the biggest problem with video, is lighting. In the studio, you got to have the right lighting to make it work right. And that's why if you really go back and look at a black and white film, those lighting directors really knew what they were doing to cast the right shadows and to capture the images best on film. What about props? Yeah, you'll need some props in the video too. It can't be just your face, even though I've seen some with just the face. But props could be as simple as a guitar, stage gear, or a pop-up banner with the artist's name and logo on it. And the equipment you're going to need for a typical video shoot would be a camera, a tripod, sound recording device, microphone, and lighting. And that's it. Now, you can have multiple cameras with multiple tripods, multiple microphones, multiple lights, but the very basics, you're going to need these 5 items. And what about wardrobe or makeup? Artists should take some time to think about what they're going to wear in the video. As a rule of thumb, don't wear anything too black, too white, or with an intricate pattern. And the script. Now, if you're doing a song, the script might be just the lyrics. However, if you're talking in an interview type of situation or forming a documentary about the art, a video shoot will run much smoother if a script of what the artist is going to say is used. So write the script out and rehearse it. Are there questions on video? Well, let's talk about manufacturing then. This is after the recording is done or the manufacturing of any of the merch on the merch table. Manufacturing refers to a large-scale production of goods that converts raw materials, parts, and components into finished merchandise using machines. Most replication facilities, as a result of their high volume run capacity, can auto-assemble discs into jewel cases, paper, Tyvek sleeves, amaret cases, or cardboard sleeves. They already can do this. You just have to tell them what it is that the artist is looking for. Many of these, when we start talking about this, compact disc, how are they being replicated? At a quality replicating facility. Where are the vinyl records being pressed? Or t-shirts? We'll talk about some of these in just a moment. But there is a difference between duplication and replication. Duplication can happen on your home computer while you burn a CD of your recorded music. Replication happens in the pressing plant where they press CDs and right into the plastic of the CD. There's a difference. I don't use duplication for anything that I've mastered. I use it for demos only. Replication is used when you're issuing a master. What about manufacturing colored vinyl, for example? Can you do that other than having a black vinyl recording? Can you have it half and half or speckled tone or one color in general? And where are you going to get your t-shirts manufactured? Maybe you're going to do it yourself, and that's fine. But think about this and put it into this section of your artist business plan. Is the artist planning on offering caps or beanies? And where are they going to get those completed? I recommend embroidery over silk screening. It's just a better quality. Maybe you're going to offer guitar picks that you can throw out to the audience or sell at your merch table. Where are you going to get those done? What about stickers? You're going to offer stickers of the artist? Maybe have them available at the merch table? Patches. Where are you going to get the patches manufactured? Or keychains, for example. Or pins. Or koozies. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Where are you going to get your posters printed? Got tote bags maybe available? Where are you going to have them either embroidered or silk screened? Any question on the manufacturing idea? Okay, so let's talk about packaging then. Typically, artists have only 4 seconds to catch a shopper's attention and convey the benefits of their product over the competition. In that short time, a shopper makes a decision about the product based on perception derived from what is presented. I got an interesting story. Doc McGee is a manager for the band, well, for many bands, but one band in particular is by the name of Kiss. And I was talking with Doc one day, and he had a stopwatch in his hand, and he was measuring the time that a fan customer was at the merch table. He determined that if they were at the merch table for longer than 13 seconds, he would pull something off the table. And I said, what's the point of this? He said, because they'll sit there and look for a half an hour to pick what it is that they want to buy, while the line is getting longer and longer. I want people to be able to come up, make their decision, give us the money, and move on. People can come up to the merch table, see what they want, hand over the cash, and walk away with a quality piece of merchandise. I thought it was a really good idea that he was doing this. But consider the customer's experience. How will a fan or customer interact with the artist's product? Can they touch it? Is the product completely sealed? Is a retail store willing or encouraged to display one of the artist's products out of the package? As artists start to develop products such as a compact disc or a t-shirt, one important consideration is that of packaging. Packaging is the technology of enclosing or protecting these products for distribution, storage, sale, and use. One of the things that I recommend to some of my clients is that they use a baggie that has the sealing baggie, and it's a 1-gallon baggie for a t-shirt. They can fold the t-shirt up, put it into that 1-gallon baggie. On the back side, they can print up the price and the size. So they don't have to go flipping through all their stuff and maybe have it ruined. I've had artists show up at gigs and there's mildew on some of the shirts and so forth. But no, if you put it in a baggie, it can save that headache that the artist can use, and then put it back in inventory until the next gig. In addition, packaging also refers to the process of design, evaluation, and production of packages. When an artist considers the various needs of packaging for their goods, they need to look at the possibilities where the package may be important for either the end user, the middleman, or the transportation of the product. If an artist is planning to sell merch at their gigs, they will need to package their compact disc in some sort of wrapper. If the artist is selling t-shirts at their gigs, how do they plan to transport them to their performance? If the artist sends their merch via the U.S. Postal Service, perhaps they need a package to withstand the stresses of many hands, boxes, tossing, and the weight of other packages. And finally, if an artist is working with their distributor, they may need to send out their merch in big bulk boxes to ensure the distributor has enough to sell. So there's purposes of packaging and package labels. First of all, physical protection. Secondly, barrier protection against the weather or dirty hands or whatever. Number 3, marketing. A good-looking package is easier sold than a non-good-looking package. Security. How are you going to keep the product safe? And convenience. If things are in a package, you don't have to worry about all the other things that go along with that. We talk about appearance of the package. If the artist has more than one product, such as multiple CDs, t-shirts, etc., their brand and image should be consistent across each one. To be consistent, artists should review the image section of their artist development plan. This image will help the artist command more attention from their fans and customers. More than one product creates an attention-grabbing visual area, and therefore more attention equals more sales. So think about it. How are you going to be packaging? Is it bag or box, plastic or paper? You shrink wrapping, you putting it in baggies? Is there an eco pack, blister packs? What type of package to put the product in is the question. And you need to make it pop. Although discussed when the artist is considering their graphic designs, artists should consider a color that will help them get their product noticed. Some artists dominate a color, such as Striper with their black and yellow, to help them stand out and create their brand. Any generic questions about packaging? Well, let's talk about pressing then. Pressing can be done with vinyl, and we've already talked about replication with CDs, but vinyl records are a fantastic physical product for artists and bands to offer to their fan base. While there's a lot of great press plants still operating around the world, Gotta Groove Records in Cleveland specifically caters to assisting indie musicians with pressing their music on wax. No, I'm not an investor in Gotta Groove. I just like supporting Cleveland. The vinyl pressing plant will want your songs in the highest possible quality. So provide them with a WAV or an uncompressed AIF file. Make sure you listen to your files before transfer to ensure there are no errors. Vinyl production requires special mastering before it can be pressed into vinyl. Most pressing plants do it for you, and it's generally included in your costs as an essential part of the pressing process. Just master your track as you would do for a digital release, and the vinyl people will take care of the rest. Test pressings are highly recommended. Most companies will have a minimum number you can press. 300 copies seems to be a fairly common amount. However, when you're doing CDs, the break point is 1,000 copies. With vinyl, you can do 300 and it won't make that much of a difference. Any questions on vinyl pressing? We'll talk about merchandising. Merchandising is the selling of products to the fan customers, either at your merch table or at a brick and mortar location. One product that can be expanded as the artist's career grows is through merchandising. Artists may want to release products such as t-shirts, hoodies, or thongs. And I put thongs in there because there's one of my clients who puts his face on the front of a thong and he sells bunches and bunches and bunches of them. I thought it was the funniest thing I ever saw, but he does it. And licensing. If the artist is a songwriter, they have another product source. Songs have value as recordings, live performances, and video beds. If the artist is recording their songs, they have another product source. Recordings have value to television producers and music supervisors at movie studios. And affiliate programs. Affiliate programs are when you're offering for sale something through your website. So for example, maybe the artist plays a Gibson guitar. And on the Gibson guitar or on the website, you can say, if you want to buy this Gibson guitar, click here. And it'll take you to Amazon, for example, or right to Gibson. You can purchase the guitar. But because you made that referral, you get paid a commission. Not so bad. One ancillary product is through affiliates, such as banner advertising and or click-throughs on the website of email correspondences. And demographic database. Another ancillary product is the potential to release fan demographics to marketers. Many corporations purchase this data, especially if the target is male age 18 to 24. And lastly, what are your future products and services? In this section, artists are to establish some products or services for the future. Are there any questions about products and services of the artist?